First, I want to thank you as well for the forum today, and the questions you're asking are the best questions we've gotten in any forum yet. And I'm sure you got some help with those questions, but they're excellent questions. The organization here is also excellent, and just the reading of the bio, that hasn't happened before either, so it's very well organized. I appreciate that. I'm running for city council because I feel like I have a lot to offer. And I'm running for city council because I love Roanoke. I grew up in Roanoke. Roanoke made me who I am, and I want to give back now. I have time now that I've retired from Spectrum Design. I have time to give back to Roanoke, and I want to do more of what I've been doing in my entire career in the city of Roanoke. You remember the bio, maybe, what I have done in the past. I started my family in Roanoke. I have 4 children, and they all live in Roanoke, which is not that unusual anymore because they do come back. They all left for a time and they came back. Just as I did when I left Virginia Tech, I left for a while and I came back. And I developed an architecture engineering firm into about 57 people and did major projects around here. I've done development downtown, and was mentioned Old Southwest and Raleigh Court. I want to continue to do that for other neighborhoods in Roanoke. So my platform is development and neighborhood development. I want development in all neighborhoods, whether it be Garland Court, South Roanoke, downtown, Northwest, neighborhoods that used to be vibrant places to be, like 11th Street Northwest, 10th Street, Melrose, village centers that we used to have that are no longer here. I want to be able to be a part of developing those neighborhood centers again so we can have vibrant neighborhoods so that we will have places to work and live. You mentioned quality of life. Part of that is having great neighborhood centers to be a part of. And I appreciate the opportunity to tell you about why I'm running for council, and I appreciate your vote May 3rd. So the neighborhoods you see now that are healthy were not necessarily healthy all the time. Use downtown as an example. I've done several projects downtown, most of which were empty buildings, most of which were also condemned buildings. I just finished one called the Aurora that used to be Leggett Department Store, and hundreds of people went in that building every day. And for decades now, there hasn't been anybody in the building because it's been condemned. Nobody in there. So what I like to do is take a building that I call dead and bring it back to life. So now we have a building with 28 apartments in it, and a vibrant retail, and a vibrant artistry center with a dance studio, an educational room, and it's back to life again. And that part of that block in downtown was dead until we did that. Same thing in a building I did in Garland Court, same thing I did in a building in Old Southwest. But it needs to be taken to other neighborhoods and have those neighborhoods be brought back to life. I use the example of 11th Street Northwest as a neighborhood village it used to be that is no more. And we need to take neighborhood villages like that and make them vibrant again by taking old buildings that can be small businesses, that can be grocery stores, that can be drugstores, that can be the things that a neighborhood needs. I remember in 11th Street Northwest, there used to be a Garland's drugstore at 11th Street. There's no more. There used to be a Clover Creamery where you go get ice cream. It's no more. But it can be. And there's a fellow over there right now called Grover Price with the Hope Center that's trying to bring hope back to that neighborhood. We need to support people like that that are trying to work in these neighborhoods to make them vibrant again. Williamson Road, where I grew up, 10th Street and Williamson Road is another neighborhood village. It used to be a very vibrant neighborhood that needs help. And there's a number of ways that we can help, and I can give you a half a dozen points that I published in the paper the other day of how these neighborhoods are brought back to life. And that's what I want to do with City Council, is to encourage that type of development in all the neighborhoods around. Well, you need a variety of qualities in the school board candidates because, and not only you don't need the same ones in all of them. The best way to do it is to have a board that has a different component of skills that can cover different areas. One of the things that I have been frustrated with is the same thing that Frida said, is that so much has been outsourced. And I think that's so unfortunate. So I'd like to think that we had a candidate that could bring some management skills and some fiscal skills to bear that can make sure that we have the skills within the school administration to be able to do the things that we need to do, whether that be cook our food, provide our substitute teachers, drive our buses, but it needs to be done here locally. Find someone that knows about education, obviously is a good component of anybody that would be on the school board, but have somebody that's fiscally responsible, that can handle that 40%, make that 40% work the way it needs to work, to be able to use those resources in the best way possible. A school board is advisory to the administration to make sure that that school board has the gumption to make sure that we have the best administration possible. And that's not just with the superintendent, but that's with all the administrators across the board. We spend a lot of our capital budget in schools on administration as opposed to direct spending on students, and I think we can do a better job of getting less money away from, getting more money away from administration and more money directly with the schools. Just schools in general, I think we've had the best schools when they were more community oriented as opposed to nationally oriented. So I'd like to see keeping as many elementary schools as possible. So I'd like to have someone on the school board that would be of that mindset, to keep the elementary schools open and not close them and make everything bigger, because bigger is not better. Having schools in communities, having schools in communities is what will help neighborhood development. Yes, we have had way too much of what you just described and what we experienced here recently in the Roanoke Valley. One thing I do know is if it did happen in the city of Roanoke, it would have happened differently afterwards in terms of how it had been investigated. I feel like particularly Chief Perkins was on board. He would have immediately asked for the state police to come in and be part of the investigation, and there'd be immediate release of the tapes. And how important is the release of the tapes? I mean, it's paramount, because you can't evaluate the situation unless you have those tapes to review. And the hesitancy to do that, I'm not sure why that's the case, but we have different opinions being thrown forward before we have all the information. We need to have all the information in order to be able to make a determination of exactly what happened. I don't know what happened, other than it was a very unfortunate situation that you do not want to ever happen, whoever the youngster is that's in that situation. And I don't know whether profiling was involved or not. That's for the investigators, and I feel like that if the tapes were released and those could be evaluated, then we would know. We would get to the truth. How do we prevent it in the future? Certainly, as mentioned, of the cameras are certainly going to help. It help with the investigation, the education of the officers themselves on how to handle situations like that. The instructions, like Mrs. Price indicated, to our youth to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in a precarious situation, and not doing the kinds of things that are going to be provoking. And I'm not saying that was the situation here, because I just don't know. But not putting yourself in a situation where it's a provoking situation where you're going to cause some sort of reaction from a police officer. But education, and both with the police force and at home, like Mrs. Price said, is paramount to keep this type of situation from happening in the future. Housing and homelessness go together, because you have to have homes to house the homeless. So how do you do that? You support the people who are already doing that. We've got lots of agencies that are doing that already. It comes down to the money of how much you're going to make it a priority and how much you finance the agencies that are already doing that. And you also do it through not-for-profits, but you also do it in private development as well. I'm a member of the board on Community Housing Partners, which is a large housing organization that does low-income housing all over the East Coast. And they do it through grants, and they do it through subsidies, and they do it through incentives that are provided. And they're doing this all over the country, including in Roanoke. And there needs to be enough of those subsidies, enough of those types of grants to make those types of projects work. I'm doing a project right now at 631 Campbell that'll have apartments that are available for $550 a month, which is certainly low income. And I've started a discussion now with the Community Housing Resource Center, which is a part of the city of Roanoke, to how we can collaborate together to make that housing available for not only low income people, but for people who are on the edge of being homeless. and making that housing affordable is how you provide housing that takes care of people that are on the border and keeps them from being homeless. So again, supporting the organizations that do that, providing incentives that are needed in order to provide affordable housing. One of the things that I've noticed in my work here recently with the city on delving up finances for low-income housing and maintenance was there was not enough applicants to even spend some of the money that was available for maintenance of homes, which I was very surprised because it was very low interest money and it was available for people who were at certain income levels and they couldn't give the money away. So part of that's education and matching that money up with the appropriate people that can use it. First, what makes me excited about the potential running on city council is sitting right in front of me, which is the youth of Roanoke. I want to be able to have some part in making sure that the Roanoke I grew up in is at least as good as sort of the Roanoke that you had to grow up in, that you have similar experiences and it's good for everybody in Roanoke. When I grew up in Roanoke, it wasn't necessarily good for everybody, but I want it good for everybody that lives in our city in Roanoke, this includes our youth. My resume of what I've done for the last 40 years, I think will certainly be very important going forward as a city council member. Having run a business, started a business from one person, developed it to 60 people, doing major projects across the state, having done transformations in neighborhoods across the city and across the state, I think will certainly come into play as I manage the city as a city council member, being able to bring that experience to the table, to be able to extend what we've done in neighborhoods in downtown and Crystal Spring and Grandin Court to other neighborhoods in the city to make all the neighborhoods of equal value and a place where you want to be instead of a place that you don't want to be or have to be scared to go into. The housing stock in Roanoke is so important, and being able to have an effect on that, bringing that experience to bear, to be able to provide housing for all our citizens and provide good housing. Whether it be affordable housing has to be just as good as the housing. It's a higher end housing in terms of the quality, and making that sort of thing available to all of our citizens is what I feel like I can bring to the city council and move neighborhoods like is talked about in Southeast and Northwest in places where they don't have the things that they need to have, to be able to be a listener, a collaborator, communicator, be transparent, to understand what you need in your neighborhood, to go to neighborhood meetings, to be able to find out those things firsthand so that we can get those things corrected as soon as possible.